Welcome back to How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you again. Appreciate you dropping by. We are going to talk about how to get your guest to promote their episode on your podcast. It's great to have these guests come by, but we want them to share. We want them to send out their episode to their community and help us grow our podcast, but also support them. How do we do it? Here on the How to Podcast series. Thanks for listening. So we want to talk about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my gosh. 7 things to consider and to put in place that will help your guests to be more apt to promote their episode with their audience. When they come on your show, we just want them to share. We want them to get the word out and have a great time with us on our podcast. So for me, I have, in less than a year, over 280 episodes, over 6 podcasts, again, in less than 1 year. That's a lot of talking. So if you hear it in my voice sometimes, you'll be like, wow, Dave sounds a little raspy. Yeah, it's fun, but it's a lot of work on your voice. And I actually have an episode coming up on how to take care of your voice better. I'm going to bring on a vocal coach to kind of give us all some pointers on that, but that's coming up. Today, I just wanted to look at how to get your guests to share their episode with their community when they come on your show. So number 1, be tactful when you post anything about their episode on social media. Make sure you tag them if they're on. I always like to ask in my pre-interview where my guest lives online. If they're a LinkedIn person, then I'm going to focus in on LinkedIn and tag them there. If they're Instagram, I'll do it there, Facebook, find out where they live and where their community lives instead of trying to guess. Why guess? Just ask. And that's always a great thing. When you put them in the show notes, you want to put the place where they live the most. And that's one little thing that I like to do in all my episodes. So be very tactful. Don't be too spammy. But whenever you post anything about their episode, make sure you tag them and include them in the conversation. They love it. It really works well. It's easy for them to share on their end as well. Number 2, make the interview worth sharing. So many times our guests are maybe on other podcasts, doing other interviews. They're out there, they're promoting their book, they're doing all the things. But sometimes they just do the same episode over and over again. So we need to make our interview exceptional. It's a challenge to do a great interview, but if we can do something that asks a question, I love when they do this. That no one's ever asked me that question before. Or when they say to you, like, I can tell you've done your homework. I love those kind of responses from my guests because they're realizing that this is not the typical interview. And you can see it on their face, especially if there's a video version of the podcast where they're on a different show. You can see them just kind of check out like, it's the same 5 questions that I was asked the last 10 times. That's an interview. That's an episode that your guest most likely won't share because it's not different, exceptional, or unique. So make the extra effort. Put in the time. Come up with something that your guest is more willing to share because it stands out against all the other things they've done in the past. It's great. Try it. Number 3, create easy to share assets. So I love using Canva. And what I do is I'll do like a video clip. I will do an image with them on there. Always ask your guests to send you the information that they want included. Send me your photo. It's easier than picking the wrong photo off some website. Ask them to send it to you. But create a digital shareable asset that's easy for them to use. And it's simple to use. Try Canva. It's great. Really works well. It's free as well. I love free. So next is and this would be number 4, is to simply just ask your guests to share the episode. And there's a saying that you don't have what you don't ask for. And that's it. You just have to ask sometimes because, again, they may be busy, they might be doing things, but just figure out the best way to get them to buy into sharing the episode. If you work with an agency that books a guest for you, you might not be talking to the guest directly at the beginning. Then ask the agency, how can I work with you guys to share the episode when it's done? Maybe your guest is super important, super busy. They just don't have time. Then ask their help. Ask their team how you can work with them to promote your guest and the episode. Really works well. Next, show sincere appreciation for your guests during the pre-interview, during the recording, and after the fact. Make sure you include them and you really, truly care for them, show up for them. Don't phone it in, that term. Make sure you are engaged, prepared, ready for a great conversation when the mics go live. That's your job as a host. Next, it's not their job to share your episode. They have given you their time. And if you were to pay for time with your guest in the role that they have, a lawyer, an actor, a musician, a business person, a doctor, if you were to pay their rate to speak to them the way you are on a podcast, it would be very expensive for you as a host. So your guest has already invested time with you in a pre-interview and a recording. They've already paid way more than you can afford just by their time. So for you to expect every guest to share an episode, it really isn't their responsibility. And you need to be very clear with that. And I tell my guests, hey, listen, I appreciate you being here. I don't expect you to share this episode or be part of this. I am part of your promotion team as a host of a podcast. I will work for you because I want this podcast episode to serve you, to serve your community, and to promote what you're here to talk about on this episode. My job is to be your promotions team. It's not your guest's job to be your promotions team. Now, if they volunteer, that's amazing, but it's not their responsibility. They've already given you their time. So let's let them just be sufficient in just giving their time to us. I love that. And last is provide your guest with an interview that they haven't done anywhere else before. And this is a question I ask in my pre-interview is I'll be like, hey, I noticed you've been on X podcasts, and I've heard a little bit of your story on there, and it seems like you're sharing the same message. Is there anything, this is my favorite question for them, is there anything that you haven't had the chance to talk about in depth or a topic that hasn't been covered in a different episode that would make this podcast episode and our time together unique? And I sit and listen because that gives my guest a chance to go, well, I've been talking about my book over and over again, but I'd like to talk about the thing that's coming up next or my new project, or I would like to go deeper into this part of the book because nobody asks me about this part. You've just uncovered how to have a shareable episode because your guest will tell you why they won't share your episode if it's the same as everybody else's. You put it in front of them. You say, I'm looking to do something unique for you. What can I do? How can I serve you? How can we make this unique? It's simple. And by doing this, you create a podcast that your guest wants to share. That's the trick right there. You just need to find a way to make what you do different, stand out, unique, and special to the point where your guest has no other option but to share the episode. If you're interested in more information on doing interviews, being a host of a podcast that's interview-based, if there's any way I can help you, Again, with 280 episodes in less than a year, I've spent some time working on this and developing this. I would love to help you. If you're a new podcaster and you've never done an interview before, you're a little nervous, you're not really sure what to do or how to make this work, I am offering to be your interview test dummy. I will come on and be your guest, and you can practice with me. And if you use the episode, awesome. If you don't use it, awesome. I want you to be able to practice an interview and ask questions, and then we will work together on honing a little bit of that. I'll help you with what you're doing well. I'll help you with some things, some suggestions that might make your interviews better and give you some confidence so that when you release your first few episodes, you haven't done this for the first time with your first guest and you're unsure of the technology, you're unsure of questions, you're unsure of what to do. Practice with me. I will come on for free and just be that guest for you to help you gain confidence. Reach out through the website, links in the show notes. Thanks for listening. We'll talk on the next one. Cheers.